Good morning. And I'm messing up chords already. I'm so sorry. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation here in beautiful Oxford, Mississippi. My name is Reverend from Memphis, and I'm going to be hanging out with you all this morning. And I am so grateful to be here. We'll talk about that more later. At this time, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing one of my favorites, hymn number 347 in your gray hymnal, Gather the Spirit.
I think we know this pretty well. It's been a bit since we've done it, but I'll just do the last two bars.
It was lovely. Let's all breathe. Let's all take 3 deep breaths. Our kindred in the Buddhist community would tell you that you need 10 deep breaths before you really get anywhere. But we're going to start with just 3. We gather and we give thanks for the bumps in the road, for the trials and tribulations, for the heartbreaks and the headaches. We gather and we give thanks for the moments when we said yes. And we give thanks for the moments when we bravely said no. We gather and we give thanks for the moments when we fell, the moments when we got up, the moments when we lifted someone up. We gather and we give thanks for all of the moments in our lives that have led us to this place on this day that we may come together in worship. I invite you at this time to turn and greet your neighbor. Mr. Tycho Jenkins on the piano. We are so grateful. So we're gonna light our chalice now. And we're going to use the chalice lighting words that I grew up saying at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Marblehead, Massachusetts, that were written by my mother. We light this chalice for the challenge of freedom, the goal of equality, and the warmth of community. May all who gather here offer and find the blessings of acceptance, loving kindness, and a grateful heart. I invite you now. Do we rise for the community hymn? Is that, or do we remain seated? All right, let's rise. All right, let's rise in body, spirit, and join in singing. It's a classic for a reason. Hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Once or twice.
Oh, let's do thrice.
You guys did so well last time.
We are at the point in the service where this morning's offertory will be given and received. This is a share the plate offertory. That's a wonderful thing that this congregation does. Share the plate donations are split 50-50, with half going to our monthly designee and half going to UUCO. This month's recipient is CASA. The purpose of CASA of North Mississippi is to train volunteers to advocate for the best interest of children in court proceedings, to ensure every child is in a safe and permanent home. CASA of North Mississippi's vision is a safe and permanent home for every abused and neglected child in North Mississippi. So I'm hoping someone can assist me. Great.
And now we will enter, like the one before it, where we share what is on our hearts, everything that has touched our lives since we were last together. First, we'll drop a pebble of gratitude and welcome for Reverend Sam and all the visitors today. It's great to be together. Then we have one written from Mary. May we all come together to mitigate climate change. May Michael and Betsy Lawn have a safe trip to Oxford. And may we, like Cheryl Conley, accept our health issues with amazing grace. Do we have any other things that would like to share this morning?
Let us pray for the Haitians, remember the Haitians, Syrians who are now, the administration is trying to remove them from the United States, and we forget that Haiti, anyway, had a terrible earthquake, and that's how the Haitian people came here originally, and that most of what people think about the Haitians, because they heard the president say things that weren't true, that we have to, in particular, be mindful of people and not necessarily listen to what the president says.
I'll drop a pebble of gratitude for the celebration of life for Cheryl Conley last night, which was a beautiful service. And we had great weather and birds. Everyone got something important from it. And for everything that remains unspoken, everything in our hearts and in our minds, we drop a final pebble.
Wonderful. We're gonna switch up the readings. You'll see in your bulletin what is the first and second reading. We're gonna do them in the opposite order of that. So we're gonna start out with this reading from the book of Lamentations, chapter 1, verses 1 through 9. How deserted lies the city once so full of people. How like a widow is she who once was great among the nations. She who was queen among the provinces has now become a slave. Bitterly she weeps at night. Tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, there is no one to comfort her. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. After affliction and harsh labor, Judah has gone into exile. She dwells among the nations. She finds no resting place. All who pursue her have overtaken her in the midst of her distress. The roads to Zion mourn, for no one comes to her appointed festivals. All her gateways are desolate. Her priests groan. Her young women grieve, and she is in bitter anguish. Her foes have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. The Lord has brought her grief because of her many sins. Her children have gone into exile, captive before the foe. All the splendor has departed from the daughter Zion. Her princes are like deer that find no pasture. In weakness they have fled before the pursuer. In the days of her affliction and wandering, Jerusalem remembers all the treasures that were hers in days of old. When her people fell into enemy hand, there was no one to help her. Her enemies looked at her and laughed at her destruction. Jerusalem has sinned greatly, and so has become unclean. All who honored her despise her, for they have all seen her naked. She herself groans and turns away. Her filthiness clung to her skirts. She did not consider her future. Her fall was astounding. There was none to comfort her. Look, Lord, on my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. And on that cheerful note, this is The Poet Speaks of Praising by Rainer Maria Rilke. Oh, tell us, poet, what do you do? I praise. Yes, but the deadly and monstrous phase, how do you take it? How resist? I praise. But the anonymous, the nameless maze, how summon it? How call it, poet? I praise. What right is yours in all these varied ways, under 1,000 masks, yet true? I praise. And why do stillness and the roaring blaze, both star and storm, acknowledge you? Because I praise. Well, good morning, Oxford. It's good to see you. I am so grateful to be back here with you again. My name is Reverend Sam Teitel. I am a Unitarian Universalist minister from the beautiful city of Memphis, Tennessee, and I am overjoyed to be with you all this morning. I am joyful to be back here. It is always a treat to come to Oxford, and I am especially grateful to my friend and colleague, the Reverend Sarah Osborne, for trusting me with this pulpit this morning. So we're going to begin our time today with words from the great poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Rilke writes, "Oh, speak, poet, what do you do? I praise. But the monstrosities and the murderous days, how do you endure them? How do you take them? I praise." That's how Rilke opens his poem, The Poet Speaks of Praising, which was our second reading this morning. It is a truly beautiful poem. It's one of my absolute favorites. And I was reintroduced to that poem by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Aaron Stockwell Wiseman, on the occasion of Donald Trump being reelected president in 2024. I called Aaron in a rage, right? I remember I wasn't surprised. The first time I was surprised. This time I wasn't shocked, but I was so angry at what had happened. And Aaron, ever the serene and emotionally regulated person that he is, directed me to that poem. And you can't say it wasn't apropos. The days that we were living in then and are still living in now, 2 years later, can indeed sometimes feel like they are full of monstrosities. And still, I have a complicated relationship with readings like this one. Like, I don't disagree with the reading. I understand it to be correct, right? Like cognitive behavioral therapy. Anyone cognitive behavioral therapy? Anyone familiar? Makes a really big deal out of finding the silver lining in bad situations. That's a whole thing. But somehow, I've never been able to get the hang of that. Because shouldn't lamentation also have its place? Especially in times like these, where we can't just respond to every disaster by serenely praising all which is good and beautiful. And sometimes, isn't it warranted for us to just totally collapse? And even if it isn't warranted for us to totally collapse, isn't it inevitable? This line of thinking led me back to the book of Lamentations in the Hebrew Bible. Lamentations is a book of just what it sounds like, lament. It is a book of beautiful yet devastating poetry about the painful state of the world and about the city of Jerusalem, and by extension, the people of Israel being conquered and destitute. It describes ruined, blighted city streets. It describes people living in poverty within the city and just sort of a general lack of inspiration and motivation. It also describes God as being absent. It talks about the sorry state of the world being a punishment that God has wrought upon the people of Israel for their wickedness and disobedience. It is, to put it very mildly, a deeply depressing book. but it does have its complications. Because the book of Lamentations also talks about praising and loving and being thankful to God despite all of the hardships and bitterness of the time during which it is set. And like, again, I struggle, right? Does anyone else struggle with this sort of thing? Right? Like, as a self-righteous Unitarian Universalist, I struggle with the idea of praising somebody when they're being mean to me, even when that somebody is God, and that's assuming that a person believes in God, which in a Unitarian Universalist congregation is by no means a guarantee. So the argument for this type of praise in hardship tends to be that if you look at the whole of the world, things are still pretty great. Like God, if God is your thing, may have created or caused whatever hardship you are experiencing, but God also created meteor showers and dolphins and strawberries and Beyonce. And somehow that argument has only ever made me feel worse. Right? Like, oh, great. Now I'm miserable and I feel guilty about being ungrateful. But I want to tell you this story about how I was able to reframe all of this in a way that helped me find my praising heart, even in a difficult moment. So this story takes place in the year 2011, the year after my mother died. And that year I was living in an artist house in Manchester, New Hampshire. Has anyone ever lived in or been in, when they were a young person, a house where a whole bunch of artsy young people all lived together? Does anyone remember back to their days of living somewhere like this? I had 5 human roommates and a couple million bed bug roommates. Yeah, no, it was so awful. And has anyone ever been to Manchester, New Hampshire? Okay, we've got 3, 4. So if you've never had the pleasure, Manchester, New Hampshire is a small New England city that has, in the time since I lived there, Manchester has gotten quite cool, right? And now it's really like a cultural hub, and they have cafes and art galleries and organic grocery stores and all of that. But when I lived there, Manchester was pretty bleak, especially in the winter. I remember lots of huge piles of dirty brown snow and grimy gas stations, and the street right in front of my house had this smashed bus shelter, and the city had no bus system. So for no reason, there was just the smashed bus shelter. So when I read the book of Lamentations and it describes desolate cityscapes full of despair and longing, I imagined them looking like this version of Manchester that I knew. And so that's where I was living, in my house with 5 other young artists. And the house was a mess and full of bugs, and my mom was newly dead, and I was in a pretty deep depression. And it was just generally a lamentable time in my life. And then one night in the winter of 2011, I drove home to Manchester from a poetry reading in Boston. I pulled up in front of a house. This was about 3 a.m. And I got out of my car and I walked out onto the porch and I looked out onto the vacant lot that was there next to the house. And lying there in the vacant lot was a lion. Not like a mountain lion. And anyway, mountain lions have been extinct in New Hampshire since the 1850s. Depending on who you ask. There's a whole internet conspiracy theory that there's still wild mountain lions in New Hampshire. But this was not that. This was a full African lion with a mane and everything, just lying there in the vacant lot. And this is where we learn that my survival instincts are garbage. Because when one is a human being and one encounters a lion anywhere besides a zoo, even if the lion definitely shouldn't be there, the thing to do is to run away and get inside. But I just stood there for like a long time, looking at this lion lying there in this vacant lot, and eventually still standing there, I got up my phone and I called one of my roommates. And remember, it was 3 a.m. So Mark picked up in a panic and said, what's going on? Are you okay? And I said, so I don't really know how to tell you this, but there's like a lion like an actual lion sleeping in the lot next to the house. And Mark, ever the man of few words, said, and I quote, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it," and then hung up the phone. So I stood there for another minute, and then I just kind of shrugged and went inside and went to bed, because what else could I do? So, right. So I came downstairs in the morning and Mark said, "Hey man, go check out your lion." So I went back out onto the porch and I hopped the railing into the vacant lot and discovered that my lion was actually a life-sized stuffed lion from FAO Schwartz. Does anybody remember FAO Schwartz? It was this ultra expensive boutique toy store that closed down about 15 years ago. But they used to have this catalog. We remember the FAO Schwartz catalog that used to get delivered, and I would gleefully tell my parents all the things that I wanted, and they would say, "Do you have any idea what this costs?" And it sold these truly gargantuan stuffed animals. So somebody had taken this stuffed lion that surely cost many hundreds of dollars and dragged it into a vacant lot in a bad part of Manchester, New Hampshire, and then just left it there and went about their day. And you have to understand that a toy from FAO Schwartz is almost as unlikely a thing to encounter in that part of Manchester, New Hampshire, as an actual lion would be. And so we were all just left to wonder who had dragged it there. Why had they abandoned it? And what, more to the point, were we supposed to do with it now? So we left it. And the lion stayed there all winter, and it got snowy and gross. And then one morning it was gone, just as mysteriously as it had arrived. So I like to say that I don't believe in a God that drops tangible signs and signals, right? I don't believe in a God that reaches in and pokes and prods at our lives. I don't believe in that God, except for the moments when I totally do believe in that. So call it God if you like, or call it the universe, or just life being life. I believed then, and I believe now that that lion was a sign dropped into my life, that it was a reminder that the world is vast and mysterious, a reminder that impossible things have a tendency to really happen if you wait long enough and look hard enough. And that, Oxford, is where I found my lost ability to praise what we might call God or the universe or what have you, not from a place of guilt or shame, and not from a place of submission to divine will, but from a deep belief in the impossible, from a belief that my understanding is so limited that even if I cannot see or understand how there is hope, hope will find a way to emerge like a giant stuffed lion materializing in a vacant lot. Despair is something that is deeply human. Despair is normal. It is an understandable way to feel sometimes. And sometimes it is a place where we need to stay for a while. Sometimes we need a bit of despair, and nobody gets to make you feel guilty about your despair. Sometimes things seem so bad that we need to just sit in the badness for a little while. And still, to me, despair represents a breakdown in relationship, a relationship with hope, with love, maybe with God if you believe in God. So to praise not exactly from a place of subservience, but perhaps from a place of awe, to lift up prayers and feelings of thanksgiving to God, to the universe, to life itself, to allow yourself to be grateful for all of creation, for oak trees and dragonflies and thunderclaps and giant stuffed lions, to lift up those feelings and prayers at some point when you are ready, is to return to relationship with the divine. To praise creation is not to refuse to criticize. It is to free ourselves from the despair that has been inflicted on us This is why when people want to oppress us, they try to make us feel despair. They try to send the message that there is no hope. To send the message that there is no hope is one of the most potent and terrible ways to assert dominance over another person or group of people. It is to deprive that person or group of a healthy, loving relationship with a higher power, however what they define that higher power. And sometimes that is a relationship that we need to lose for a little while. There have been times in my life when I did not have any relationship with any form of God or higher power because that wasn't what I needed just then. But part of reclaiming our power, identity, and agency is reclaiming our relationship with hope, with love, and with the divine, however we define the divine. In the early stages of my year in Manchester, I think I needed a little bit of despair. I needed to fully allow myself to fall apart. And then my lion came. And it sparked something in me, and not to put too fine a point on it, but then I applied to seminary. So, Oxford, we are in a difficult time. Wouldn't we say? We're in a difficult time. The past few years have been extremely tough for all people of decency, all people of common sense. And things don't seem to be in a hurry to improve. So for a while, despair is understandable and is nothing you need to feel guilty about, but somehow, some way, there will be evidence, I promise, of the beauty and mystery of this world that will make itself known to us. Some of us might even have the opportunity to embody that evidence in someone else's life, and we will eventually find our way back to hope and to the ability to praise as a way to reclaim our hope, our joy, our God. Oxford, we have already lost a lot. And I imagine that we are likely to lose some more before we start gaining again. There have certainly been moments of lamentation and despair, and that is exactly why we need our ability to praise. It is why we need moments of loving, connected relationship with each other and with that which is beyond us. It is why we need to stay attentive to the beauty and mystery of our world. That is the practice that will carry us through this time to whatever lies beyond it. Amen.
Our closing words for releasing. Chalice flame release itself. But we will mark its releasing with these words from Andrew Pula. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true, until you gather here again in this place of love.
I invite you at this time to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number. It says 102, but that's not right because it's in the teal hymnal. 1012. When I am frightened. It is 1012, yes.
I think it goes well, it has a nice little intro. I'll just start.
That's just our community blessing.
Yes.
Great.
Y'all say it once.
All right, let's all say this together. Go in peace, believe in peace, create peace, be peace.
Yeah, wow.